Welcome into the 2023 Fantasy Baseball preview for Joe Bond's Baltimore Orioles. Joe, I hope you're paying attention here. If you're not Joe Bond, you can still go ahead and throw a like on here for us. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you get an alert every time a new video comes out. We've been doing one of these a day starting on February 1st, going all the way through until we get every single team taken care of. And if you haven't checked out fantasy6pack.net/plans yet, you should definitely do that. You can get our All Access plan, which is going to get you access to our award-winning rankings, super awesome draft tools, and our private Discord channel, which has got access to people like myself and Connor and everyone else on the staff. My boy over here, Connor Thomure, and I are going to go ahead and hop into some Baltimore Orioles talk. Connor, how's that sound?
That sounds good.
Perfect, man. Well, let's hit up that starting lineup. And we look up at the top and we see Cedric Mullins, followed by Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, Anthony Santander, Ryan Mountcastle, Ramon Urias, Kyle Stowers, Austin Hayes, and Adam Frazier rounds it out. So some interesting names in that lineup there. Definitely some familiar names. And the guy I want to start off talking about is, used to be more of a dynasty name, but now that he's, been in the show and, done some damage, Adley Rutschman, surely the number one dynasty catcher. But as far as redraft is concerned, where do you think that he fits in the catcher mix?
He's definitely one of the top guys, but right now he's not the top guy. So I'm putting him around 2 or 3. He's up there behind Realmuto, of course. And then him and Will Smith is a toss-up between those two. You can't go wrong with either or. But yeah, for now, it's still JT Realmuto. Adley Rutschman has got to be the third guy for me, third or second.
Yeah, I mean, for me, he's in the top 5, but he's probably more like 4 or 5. Obviously the guys you mentioned are there. I would also throw in a couple of Blue Jays, Alejandro Kirk, Dalton Varsho. I put them probably ahead of Rutschman. Maybe you can swap out, Rutschman and Kirk, but either way, the 3, 4, 5 there, I guess, adjust them how you wish. Rutschman might have the highest ceiling of that group. With Varsho's speed, I guess I could argue that he's my one. So, but either way, I mean, Adley Rutschman, if you can get him as your starting catcher, you're going to be in pretty good shape. And then you just go forward from there. But this team is full of, good young players, and Gunnar Henderson is right up there in the same, tier as Adley Rutschman. Is Gunnar a guy that you would feel comfortable with if he was, your starting shortstop heading into this redraft season?
I feel like the answer should be no, but for me, I actually am okay and comfortable with him as my starting shortstop. He's still a bit of a question mark. I mean, any young guy is a question mark, obviously, in the league, but, he is a guy I'm okay with. He's going around like shortstop number 9, I want to say right now. And so at that price point, I'm happy with him there because he has the potential to, move up that list and be one of the top shortstops. With him, I do want to say, if you do get him, it is a good idea to have a backup plan just in case he has a sophomore slump this year.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at this lineup, 1 through 5 is quite solid. And Henderson's going to be right in the middle of that mix. So he's going to have some guys on base in front of him. He's going to have some protection behind him. There is quite a good ceiling there. So yeah, Gunnar Henderson is a guy that if I swing and miss early on shortstops and I have to wait a little bit, he's a guy in that range that I'm interested in. I don't know that I pull the trigger on him or not. I may opt to just simply continue to wait, but I am intrigued by, the upside that he presents, especially for where you're going to be able to get him. A guy that I've liked for quite a while is Ryan Mountcastle. Is he a guy that you think is more of a sleeper, or is he a guy that you think is going to go, early enough that, he's more of like a mid-round pick than a sleeper?
I consider him a sleeper. From what I've seen, he's going a little bit too late, and I'm scooping him up where I can. I think there's a lot of first basemen in front of him that are kind of mixed up, and you can't really tell like who's who, and I think he's being drafted outside of those, but I think he is a part of that group, and I'm considering him a sleeper.
Yeah, I mean, Mountcastle's the guy for me where absolutely comfortable with him being my middle infielder. If you play in a league where you have middle infield, obviously, would be happy with him as a utility as well. I don't know how I feel about him being my starting first baseman. If he's my starting first baseman, hopefully that means that my rotation's in good shape. The rest of my lineup is really solid.
Yep,
Because
it's a big part.
yeah, because I mean, I do like him, and I think he's going to provide more power than people expect. I don't think he's a big drain on average. Obviously, he's not going to hit 300, but he's also not going to hit like 220. If you play in an OBP league, that's kind of where I'm a little bit more sour on him. He's not a guy who is going to be approaching like 350. He's probably more like a 325 type guy, which isn't great. But for where you're getting him with the power that he gets you, hopefully with this offense, scoring some runs, hopefully the RBIs, maybe some runs are there as well. So I do think that I'm higher on him than most, and I'm excited to see what he does this season.
Yeah, sounds like we're in the same boat on him.
Yeah, let's go ahead hop over into the rotation because this is a good offense, but it's really going to come down to what this team can do on the mound. And we've got some new names up at the top of this rotation for him. Kyle Gibson comes over, Cole Irvin comes over. We got Kyle Bradish, Dean Kremer, and Grayson Rodriguez rounding out that rotation there. So I mean, it's not bad, but it's certainly far from good. I want to start off by talking about Grayson Rodriguez. Sounds like he's going to, be given every single chance possible to make the opening day roster. I think he's going to do that. So assuming he does, how interested are you in him this year for redraft?
I'm actually super interested in him. Right now, his price isn't too bad. As we go along the season, I'll probably raise a little bit, where his ADP will end up going up a little bit because people are excited about him, and for a reason. But I'm in on him 100%. I usually stay away from rookie pitchers and rookie players, but this is a guy that I'm actually into. I'd like to have him on my team.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you. If you've been, excuse me, if you've been following along with, these videos, or if you ever listen to me like on the On Deck Circle and stuff, I'm not a big fan of pitching, and I'm really not a big fan of young pitching. It's so volatile for me. But I think that Grayson Rodriguez is a guy who has an incredible ceiling. He definitely, I think, if healthy, is going to end up being the ace on this team, like by a lot. And so I really like him, but I think more than anything, depending on when you're drafting, I think you can get a good discount on him right now because it's still a little bit up in the air. Like, is he for sure going to make the rotation? Is he not? So if you're drafting right now, Grayson Rodriguez is probably a guy that I'm going to roster because I'm going to be more comfortable than most people drafting him. Now, if you're, waiting a few more weeks or it gets announced that, yep, he's making the rotation, now I'm probably, even though I'm still higher on him than most, other people have now caught up to me, and it's not a guy that I'm going to super reach for, but he's definitely a guy that I could see not necessarily being like a league winner, but a guy where at the end of the season, you look at where you draft him and you think to yourself, damn, that was a really good pick. Like I'm really happy I took the chance on him in that spot.
Yep.
So outside of that, the two interesting names in this rotation are the new guys, Kyle Gibson, Cole Irvin. Are either one of those guys anyone that you're interested in targeting anywhere with throughout your draft?
Maybe like in the last couple of rounds, but honestly, no. We'll see what else comes in the last rounds. I think there's probably going to be other players that you can get with higher upside than these two.
Yeah, Cole Irvin was a guy who started off just on fire at the beginning of last season, people were wondering, is this real? Is it not real? Of course, regression came as expected. So I think he's far closer to the second half pitcher of last season than the first half pitcher. So I'm not really too interested in him. Kyle Gibson is interesting. If he stays healthy, he's definitely serviceable. He is a, solid, SP 5, in that neighborhood. If he's your
Yeah.
SP4, you don't hate it, but it means your rotation's on the weak side. So I wouldn't say they're guys I'm targeting, but with Kyle Gibson in particular, if I end up with him towards the end of my rotation, I think I can live with that.
Yeah.
And then let's round it out here in the bullpen. Up at the top here, we got Felix Bautista, pretty locked in as your closer here. 7th and 8th inning guys, we got Cionel Perez and Brian Baker. And then we round out that bullpen with Michael Givens, Keegan Aiken, Tyler Wells, Andrew Politi, and Austin Voth. I think it really comes down to Felix Bautista here for, the interesting names. So, he had a solid breakout rookie season last year. Do we think that that's something that continues? Does he, continue to improve, or do we see some regression?
I think he'll continue to improve. When looking at his baseball savant page, it was, one of those other ones that was pretty much almost all bright red. There's some blue in there, but it's mostly all bright red. And I think we could see that again. And from a closing position, I mean, he throws gas, and what more could you ask for from your closer than to throw 99 miles an hour? So yeah, he's a guy I'm perfectly fine with. I think he'll be a top 10 closer this year, or right on the edge at least, like maybe around 11 or 12 at a minimum.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to really come down to how many opportunities he gets. If Baltimore ends up surprising everyone and, really competing in the AL East and he gets those opportunities, yeah, he absolutely could jump into a top 10 closer. If they have a little bit of a down season, the opportunities aren't quite there, then that's when you see him in, 15, 18 range. So it really just depends. He's going to go as the Orioles go, which is fine. When you get, your non-elite closers, I feel like that's probably about what you get for, everybody. But Joe, I hope we did you proud here talking about your Baltimore Orioles. If you disagree with anything that we said, it was all Connor's idea. But we do appreciate you tuning in for this one. Make sure you drop a like on here if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so either. And we appreciate you tuning in.